There is no civil airliner that can fly 20,000 kilometers without stopping. Therefore, there is no direct flight from Eastcliff to Buenos Aires. At that time, Philip's private jet had a maximum range of less than 8,000 kilometers. However, in order to find Charlie, he set out in a hurry late that night without hesitation. The plane first took off from Eastcliff, after a stop for refueling. First flew to San Francisco, the United States, and then stopped for refueling again in Houston, the United States, and then flew nonstop to Buenos Aires. The entire flight time took almost 30 hours. During these 30 hours, Philip never closed his eyes. He thought he would be able to find Charlie's whereabouts that time, so he was so excited that he couldn't rest at all. In addition, he had not rested for more than 10 hours before taking off, so he held on for 48 hours, but he didn't even feel any fatigue at the time. More than 50 hours have passed until he found the young man who really looked like Charlie's father and asked if he was not the Charlie he was looking for. From that moment, he felt a sense of depression and fatigue. And now, he actually feels his body, back to that time. His decades of worldview were completely subverted in an instant. He couldn't figure out what kind of magical medicine Charlie gave him. Could it be that the elixir of the legendary Your Excellency Lao Jun? Otherwise, how could it be so magical? At this moment, Philip, who was at least 10 years younger, was crying and choked silently. At this moment, Lennon and Sarah were crying so hard that they couldn't help themselves. The two of them left and right, holding Philip's warm hand, so excited that they couldn't speak. Although Philip has not undergone any medical tests, and they have not received any authoritative report on whether Philip has been cured, they believe in their own eyes, in their own judgment, and believe that he is now completely healed. As a personal experience of the effects of rejuvenating pills, Philip knows his own situation well. He is now 10,000% sure that he is not only healed, but his body is back to the state he was in when he was 40 years ago. This made him ecstatic. It took him a long time to recover from his uncontrollable emotions. Then, he raised his head to look at Charlie, his eyes filled with gratitude. Immediately afterwards, he gently pushed away the wife and daughter beside him, bending his legs and knelt down in front of Charlie. Charlie didn't expect that Philip would kneel to him and hurriedly reached out to support him, making him unable to kneel anyway. But Philip has been working hard to push his hand away, and said solemnly and sincerely, "Charlie, you recreated Uncle, this worship, you can't stop me anyway." Charlie blurted out, "Uncle, you are my father's brother, that is equivalent to my uncle, how can I receive such a gift from you? Isn't this broken me?" Philip shook his head and said, "Charlie, your kindness to me is as great as a mountain. Even if I give most of my assets to you, it is no match for the kindness, so you will receive my worship anyway." Before Charlie could speak, Lennon on the side had already knelt down, and Sarah knelt on the ground without thinking. Lennon choked up and said, "Charlie, you have a great kindness to our family. Auntie is unforgettable in this life." Sarah on the side also nodded again and again. "Charlie, thank you so much." At this moment, Philip was still using his body to compete with Charlie, insisting on kneeling on the ground. Seeing this, Charlie sighed, then let go of Philip, stood up straight, and said seriously, "If this is the case, I won't stop you, but after thanking me, let's stop talking about this. Now, I haven't had a mouthful of food yet, let's eat lunch first, okay?" Philip immediately knelt on the ground, clasped his fists on top of his head, and said sincerely, "Charlie, Uncle is not stupid. I can see that you must be someone with great ability. Uncle thanks you for giving me such a great opportunity. Uncle will remember this life. If there is anything that needs Uncle to do in the future, I don't dare to refuse to do it." Charlie smiled slightly, helped him up, and said, "Uncle, thank you too, can we eat?" Philip hurriedly smiled and said, "Come here, let's continue eating." After speaking, he looked at Lennon excitedly and said with a smile, "Wife, go to our storeroom and get a bottle of my treasured top Mao Tai. I have a good drink with Charlie today, for more than a year. I have been greedy for a long time without a drop of wine." Lennon wiped away her tears, and smiled and said, "Okay. You guys sit and eat first, I'll get it now." After a while, Lennon came back with a bottle of Mao Tai. Philip took over the bottle and opened the lid while saying to Charlie, "Charlie, since the year of her birth, every year on her birthday, I will spend a lot of money to save a batch of the best motai I can buy. So far, there is already a storage room in the basement. They are all auction-level top mayote. They were originally prepared to wait for the wedding day of Sarah to entertain relatives and friends. Today, let's try it first." Lennon smiled and said, "Charlie, this batch of wine, for your uncle is very precious. The storage room is like a grave, you can only get in. It has been stored for more than 20 years, and he hasn't taken a bottle out to drink it. This is the first time today." Philip smiled and said, "This wine was originally prepared for the wedding of Charlie and Sarah, so now it should be preheated." Sarah on the side blushed immediately. Charlie was inevitably embarrassed. "Mary? I am a married person now, how can I marry Sarah again?" Philip also saw the embarrassment in Charlie's expression, and said seriously, "Charlie, I know your current situation. You don't have to have any psychological burden. Since your uncle is now healed, I must live another 20 or 30 years. No problem, uncle is master. Our family has been waiting for you for many years." Speaking of this, Philip said while pouring his wine, "In the next 3 years, you can solve the current problems in a few minutes, and then make a plan for your own future, whether you want to return to Eastcliff or Wade's home. Think about all these things, but it doesn't matter if you return to the Wade family. In my eyes, you are the son-in-law of the GU family. Everything in the GU family belongs to you. It doesn't matter if you don't have the Wade family."